Okay, let me peel back the curtain for a moment. I get a lot of sponsored ad type requests. A lot of card games, board game companies, like digital game companies reach out to me asking me to do a sponsored video or a review of their product. And oftentimes the goal is, of course, to bring it to your attention, the audience that I love creating videos for and content for. But oftentimes I will push those aside, whether it be that there's a mechanic in the game that doesn't sit well with me, or the aesthetic doesn't strike me as something that would appeal to you. It always comes down to whether or not I feel like that product or that thing would bring you, my audience, value. Today is an exception to that, because this card game, in my opinion, is definitely worth your look. This is the Imposter Kings, and it is a 2 to 4 player quick play card game. It's not a trading card game. It's not an LCG, which I don't know if I can even say anymore if I just get sued straight off for saying LCG, but it's neither of those. It is more of a strategy card game akin to something like Love Letter, if you've ever played Love Letter, or Coup. By the way, I can't show you Love Letter even though I own it, because I think my kids took it and then subsequently lost it. Pesky kids. They never tell you when you're having kids that they're going to take your board games. So I don't know where that is, but Coup is a good representation of this as well. And so today we're going to talk about why this is worth your time, in my opinion, and I hope that you find it as engaging as I have, because this game is very cool. In fact, that's one of the reasons why I wanted to bring this to you, because I've played it a good bit already, and I think it's fantastic. The other reason is that this is being sponsored by none other than MinMax Games. And if anyone's going to sponsor a kind of breakdown in my review of a game, it's going to be someone that I trust, and that is MinMax Games. All I'm going to say is this: if the discerning people at MinMax Games back this game, there's a reason. And let's be honest, they're not just backing this game, they are carrying it in their store and at conventions. You can buy this through MinMax Games, and for good reason, because the game is awesome. So this is a 2 to 4 player card game that can be played at a very casual pace. It can be played very competitively. And I think the most important place to start with a game like this is the aesthetics. I know a lot of people will say, well, tell me about how the game plays and then I'll decide if I like it, but I think the other way is true. I think you should fall in love with the way a game looks and then realize that the game is super fun to play. So this game has absolutely just breathtaking art and overall aesthetics. As you can see, and as I'm going to flip through these cards, the game has its own very unique, very graphic, hand-drawn art, and it is definitely a selling point. When you're holding a beautiful piece of art in your hand, you feel it that much more. So the game plays like this. You play as one of either 2 or 4 kings, and you are all vying to be the king that controls the throne at the end of the game, in a way that's similar to Love Letter, where you're trying to write a letter and actually be the one that gets it to the princess. In this, you're the one that's trying to take the throne. So you play as a king, and of course all these cards you're going to see have abilities, but the base level of the game is incredibly easy and simple to understand. But look at this art. You know what's cool about this? No matter if you're looking at this fool or that fool, there are multiple of the same card. They have different art. You think it's first of all, it's vibrant, it's just colorful, and it's eye-catching. But look at this. This one's sad. This one's happy. How fun is it to just look at a piece? What's different between this and that? Play the game with yourself. Try to decide for yourself. Spoiler alert, it's the eyes. So the game has a striking visual aesthetic to it, and it makes it incredibly fun to engage with, to look at the cards and then to play out your cards, because you do very much feel, look at this king's hand, just a giant dude in armor. Love that axe, executioner style. You get to look at these cards and just imagine what they're doing. This piece, by the way, is actually my favorite. The Oathbound, by far my favorite in the game. I think this is peak S tier art right there. This is just A playmat of this is worth it. That's so cool. I love just the very monocolor, just playing with a singular color thing. This whole vibe, almost like a watercolor background as well. So aesthetics are 100% on point. I mean, come on, look at that. Look how cool that is. You don't see that very often. Reminds me of the old Guild Wars 2 kind of aesthetic, which is very graphic and graphical, I should say. Like thick lines and watercolor splashes. This has a very similar hand-drawn type appeal. But let's talk about how the game actually functions, how it plays. As you see, as I'm flipping through these cards, all of these characters have a number associated with it. We can call it power, we can call it influence, you can call it whatever you want. But the number is the key to understanding the game, because you, again, are trying to be the last person to sit on the throne. So let's say that you have a hand of a bunch of these characters. I'm just going to grab some random ones and kind of explain how this functions. So let's say you have a hand of a bunch of these characters, and you can see that they're going to, when you shuffle up the shared deck, it's a shared deck game. You're going to set aside some number of cards if you're playing with 2 players, and you are going to play with a specific deck, and you're going to shuffle those up so everyone kind of knows what's in circulation. Again, very much like Love Letter. You're going to have a bunch of different values. So you can see here we have a 2, a 3, a 5, a 4, and 8, right? And you're going to take turns with your opponent, and you are going to play a card, which is just going to happen right here. You're going to play a card to the throne. Pick a zone, pick a spot, it becomes the throne. So let's say that you play this Elder, which represents 3 influence. So you are currently sitting on the throne. Your opponent is going to be asked then to match or beat your number. And let's say they have a hand that looks something like this. So here is their hand, and we'll just kind of throw a couple of cards out there. It's not perfectly indicative of the game. This is not a gameplay video. It is literally just showing you how it functions, so you can decide if this seems interesting to you. So they have to play or beat this 3. They have a couple of cards that can do it. Let's say they play this 4. Now keep in mind, there are effects that can trigger, if you choose to, on some of these cards. In fact, on all of these cards, they have effects that they can activate. But now they are sitting on the throne. So going back to your turn, you would have to beat or match a 4, and in doing so, you would sit on the throne. So now you have a 5. And of course, things get far more complex as you activate effects and use abilities, but at a base level, this is how it functions. All of a sudden, they have to beat a 5, and the only card they could do that with is this 7. So in doing so, they are sitting on the throne, and finally, you can beat a 7 thanks to this 8. And you play that down, you are sitting on the throne, and look at that, all of a sudden your opponent has nothing that can beat an 8. This is where they would use strategically a card that could manipulate the throne, maybe remove a card or swap a card or flip the card over so that they can restart the numbering. But if they can't do any of that, if they can't play, or if they don't have any cards to play because the game has progressed to that point, you, being the person that is the last to sit on the throne, have won. Now, of course, you can play a couple of different ways. If you're playing very casually, you could just say, hey, I win the game, congratulations, let's shuffle up again. Or if you're playing a little bit more cutthroat or competitive, there's a point system to winning a round. You shuffle up, after you gain some points, you go again. First person to X amount of points wins the game. But this game can be enjoyed by anyone, regardless of how deep you want to go with it. As you can see, this is a very simple system. Just stack up numbers. But it gets deeper and deeper the more you analyze and figure out how best to employ these abilities. So, when I was explained the game, it was very well put by none other than Sam Dando, that this game at deeper levels feels like the final turns of a match of Flesh and Blood, which is a trading card game that is very intricate and back and forth and rewards players really thinking through things and trying to kind of figure out what your opponent is going to do and then having the right response to that. And I thought that was the perfect way to explain it, because that's exactly what this feels like. It feels like every decision matters, every moment can be analyzed and figured out. It's not chess-like in that sense, but it's chess adjacent in that everything can be looked at and tried to figure out, and you're rewarded the more you understand the game. And so it's a really, really deep experience that you can take as far as you want, which is why I was just so enamored by this. Like I said, I taught my wife to play this game in about 5 minutes. We shuffled up. We played like 7 rounds in a row, and the entire time we just relaxed and talked. So you can play it like that. But you could also get with a bunch of people who are sold out figuring out how to play this game at a deep level and just enjoy it that way as well. So it's as cerebral as you want it to be. Now, that leads me to my only nitpick of the game. It, with all of these effects and all of these, there's a couple of keywords, as you can see when we take out the, which I think this is fantastic. They include these. They include these little rule cards. These fantastic little, just set it out on the table while you're playing, little rule cards, objective, and kind of explain how to set up a game and what cards to include in the shared deck. But overall, like, there's a lot of these keywords and a lot of effects that can trigger. As you can see, here's the keywords page. The what is the court? What is the throne? What happens when you're disgraced, condemned? This is a lot to take in on your first couple of playthroughs. And that is my only nitpick, is that if I'm teaching this to my son who's 9, and I'm going to be teaching it to him because this is a fun game to play, but if I'm teaching it to him, I'm going to start by almost just removing the effects and then introducing them a little bit at a time, because you really do have to sit down and kind of digest how some of these cards and keywords and effects function, especially with each other. So, in my opinion, this is definitely a game, although it does say for 8+, this is definitely a game that rewards you for starting off easy and then ramping up to full strength as far as full abilities later. But that doesn't have to happen, over days. It could happen after a couple of games. Once you kind of get the system and how it all works, then it really opens itself up to you. But there is a moment of learning curve. I think it's worth having that because the depth that you can get out of this, especially if you're a card game player, the depth is there. So if this piques your interest, the cool thing about this game is that there's a wide variety of ways to actually try it out for yourself. So first of all, this is the main website, and you can actually click on the play button here. There's a couple of ways you can actually go about playing this game like right now. If you want to test it out for yourself, you can play it with 2 players by printing and playing just the PDF, which if you click, it's literally just the cards. And the cool thing is, this is a multiplayer game as well. I got to play this alongside of the guys over at MinMax Games a couple of weeks ago, about a month ago now. And yeah, you can straight up play this multiplayer, and it was honestly probably more fun that way than just the 2-player. Like, that was surprising to myself, just to sit down and play 4-player and to realize, oh, it's like 2 teams of 2. You're up against like a team. It almost feels like you're playing like hearts or was it spades, and you're trying to like figure everything out and communicate non-verbally with your teammate. Very, very fun. But you can play it print and play. You can play it online. They have an online client. It is it's kind of interesting. You can straight up just play this through their Discord. You just message someone and like set up a standard game. You can even play it 4 players, I guess, online, which maybe that functions. But yeah, you can just straight up like 2-player, get a name, set up, like copy, paste, and play. It's pretty crazy that they have like a full-fledged online little client to test with. And then of course you can play it via Tabletop Simulator if you have Tabletop Simulator. Fantastic way to play just about any card game is Tabletop Simulator. But you can try this out in a wide variety of ways, which is very, very cool. And if you're interested in actually picking up a copy like this copy that I have that I showed you on camera, if you're interested in picking that up, you can do that a couple of ways as well. First of all, they have a Kickstarter that is for an expansion to this box set, and you can actually join this Kickstarter. They have 6 days to go, and it's already met its goal. I've met its goal very, very quickly. Players that have really plugged into this just very much enjoy it. And the best part about this Kickstarter is it's a lot of players just wanting the game. It's not a bunch of extras that are kind of driving up the sales. It's literally just, We want the game, we want the expansion as well, so we're gonna back it. And that's pretty awesome. So you can literally just get, as a new player, you can go on here, 50 bucks gets you the Imposter Kings base game, as well as the expansion that's gonna be coming out with this Kickstarter. But if you don't even wanna wait, and you just want a copy of the game, you can literally get that copy of the game back on their website. You just go to buy, and it takes you to MinMax's website. Again, this is a video that I am not hiding in any way, shape, or form, is sponsored by MinMax, and I said yes to this because I thought the game is worth it, and because any game that MinMax feels is a good investment for your time and your money, I tend to agree with, because they are very discerning on what they find to be a good game and what they want to bring to you, and they very much value your money and your time. And I think they do exactly the right thing by picking this one up and running it out. So you can actually just buy this base game, 30 bucks, just like any other game you would go and purchase. You can buy it from MinMax and pick it up and run it out there, and it's worth your time. So this is the Imposter Kings, and I think it's a fantastic card game to play with your family. It's a fantastic card game to bring with you if you're going to a tournament for another card game, as a quick pickup game in between rounds, or after just, you know, decompressing and after hours playing. This is a fantastic game to run out there. Definitely worth your time. It can be thinky, it can be laid back, but it's always a good time. So if you enjoy me covering games you've never seen before, and you'd like me to do this more, because I don't want to do this if you're not getting value out of it. If this is something you're interested in, let me know in a comment below. And of course, make the number go to another number, because here we like making numbers go up. As always, everybody, thanks for watching.